You know, I enjoyed my relationship with my father after high school. In college, it was always, you know, do something good and you got my father's attention because he was a person who always raised the bar on himself first, but always for his family too. So we were very close. I had no intention of going to D.C., even at his asking many, many times. I actually had no idea that I knew he ran a business. I just didn't know anything about it. He was very private, very humble. And so my father started his business in late 1990, CSSI Incorporated, and went through all the process of certifying the company 8A through the SBA, and won their first major contract with the FAA in late 92, and then 30 days later he was killed in an accident. So at that time he did not have, he was not remarried, he did not have a will, which was a very challenging impact to the family. So everything passed to the three kids. And at that time, I was 27, my sister 28, my brother 25. And my mother, my dad's two sisters, everybody flew out to California and actually were dealing with the accident because he was on a motorcycle and somebody not paying attention hit him from behind, and as he was changing to a reserve tank of gas. And so he was on machines for an extra day to have the family come out because there really wasn't any chance of him coming out of his situation. And at that time we were learning everything in the sense of, oh my gosh, you know, we're dealing with the death, we're dealing with, he has a company and it's us, the three kids, and so in addition to that, you have your mother and two aunts that are sitting there going, well, the kids don't know how to handle this. You know, I'm like, Mom, I'm 27 years old. I'm like, come on. Don't treat me like a kid in front of these lawyers. I'm, you know, big girl now. And give me the high chair. Yeah. And, so it was a very interesting, difficult, challenging time, learning that what it meant to for him not to have a will, the inheriting
it is,
and
and
passing
I really
on.
want to share that with you. I think you and I both had that circumstance. Mm-hmm. My brother owned an internet service provider company. He passed away and did not have a will in place, which meant that it automatically went to my mother because he wasn't married. In your situation, there was no will in place, and it automatically goes to the kids. Now you move into this thing where you move into probate.
Yeah, probate.
And you need attorneys, and you've got to go through a lot.
Right.
A lot of rigorous testing about what you want to do.
Exactly.
How big was the company at the time?
The company was 10 employees. I'm employee number 12. I have employee number 4 out here in the audience. But it was very small. 4 is Katie,
hey,
Katie Spalding. And so they were just staffing up due to the new contract, the new tasking with the FAA. The interesting part, because we were learning what all of this meant, your best friends become lawyers and CPAs, mm-hmm. which is unfortunate because mm-hmm. they make out in all of that. We were learning what it meant that the company was certified 8A through SBA, which socially and economically disadvantaged, which my father was certified. And one of the three kids, or the three of us, had to decide who was going to do the change in ownership with SBA to become the 8A. So we had to learn what the 8A.
One person has to
have
their name.
And 51%. So it needs to be a present, visible person at a 51% doing a change in ownership. So learning what that all meant, and then the whole estate. So my father was somebody who invested a lot, which looked like a lot of debt, and most of the mm-hmm. of the assets were invested in the company as a startup. So it was certainly challenging because when people think, oh my God, look at all the houses and the cars and the company, you're thinking dollar signs.
I know,
and
it's
so
very true.
It was very, I think the hardest thing was seeing the family go through the difficulty of dealing with the death of the brother of my two aunts, the ex-husband of my mother who absolutely adored and loved my father, and that's, you know, just was in love with him forever. To this day, and then the three kids just not really understanding that their father wasn't there, and either the missed connection and relationship that my brother didn't have with my father. You're dealing with a lot of emotions, and then to deal with employees of the company who were hoping.
I was going to ask you about that because I think that's another thing that happens in a situation like that that's unanticipated is that, so in comes a family member which is what's going to naturally happen if 51% ownership is by a family, and that's who everything goes to. What happens is sometimes a family member, because you really had two choices: we can liquidate and sell everything, perhaps let the companies buy, the employees buy it out or fold it, or you take that and you come in and you try, because you now have debt, you have responsibilities. My mother now owns this company; she's invested in the company. So it then becomes one sibling or somebody needs to step up and make these decisions too, because a lot of people are not even prepared for what's going to follow.
Right, and my father was the sole owner. He did have a partner who was the vice president, and so he was looking for decisions. Somebody needs to come, and there was a little bit of that pressure. The customers we had just awarded this contract with what's going to happen, and the kids, myself, my sister and brother going, I'm not leaving California. I'm like, what? We're responsible? I'm not going. Why don't you guys go? So my sister really wanted to come. It just didn't work that she was married and had her first baby. My brother had no intention of coming. He and my father's relationship was very strained at the end, which he, I think, believes still deals with today. And for me, the responsible person going, fine, I'll go. And so and I'll get into a little bit of that, but I think it was just doing the right thing, really. So it wasn't just about somebody taking over or what the then vice president was dealing with. It was somebody not involved in the company, a 27-year-old, a blonde from California. It was a lot of factors in a man's world of aviation. So it was very, and I love those challenges, by the way. So it took me a few plane trips to get to DC, because I had made it to LAX a couple times once we made the decision that I would come. And so it looked like 2 months. So I really should be employed probably number 15, but I'm employed 12. And I finally got on the plane, got to DC, and stepped in.
Stepped in and did it. And it's just a hard decision.
It was.
And I know exactly what you mean, because especially you're in a male-dominated industry. I stepped into a male-dominated industry. I remember I went into my brother's partner sometime. He said, I think you just think I'm a blonde who wears too much makeup from Texas and a short skirt. And he goes, that's exactly what I think.
And talks like this.
Yeah, and talks like this. But I think they underestimate your strength too. What we can bring to the table. And you should never underestimate. And maybe sometimes you should, but I don't think that plays. I think you've got to make it work. You've got to.
Right. And I think that there were definitely a lot of insecurities going on inside, and I still talk to very few people about my insecurities, but they stay there, or I set them aside. And you come in with confidence. You don't overconfident, because you want to at least encourage people and show people that I went from making $40,000 at Hughes Aircraft Company as a senior analyst after 5 years, and to a larger salary, and then president.
So you came in and you had, like you said, you were employee number 12, so you had 11 employees when you came in. How big is the company now? How many employees do you have now?
We're shy of 300 employees today.
That's a little bit of growth.
We've done very well.
And how many years since 19?
It's been 17 and a half years since I've been there. So January of 93 is when my father's at.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what was your biggest challenge? So you had to come in, you had to deal with the SBA, and then you had to go start, you had to learn so many new things, learn about, number one, being an entrepreneur, which maybe wasn't
right.
But it's interesting that you were already in the aviation field, because CSSI tell us what CSSI does.
Okay, today we are an engineering, IT, and research firm, and so we have a lot of PhDs, masters on a lot of the different engineering fields. We support the FAA, NASA aviation, as well as the DoD Navy's aviation. We're looking to extend further, because we're not today just an aviation firm, but a lot of the disciplines and skill sets of the engineering and higher end IT. So today we are, I think, diverse in areas, skill sets, and we're hoping, we started out as just a program management, acquisition management, FAA client, and today that looks a lot different. And so I'm proud of that. I think that today we've defined ourselves as unique and have more discriminators, and that's internal and external attributes.